It was our 10th anniversary, and I was at home waiting for my wife to celebrate, but instead, I received a picture of her cheating, leaving a mark of love on your chest. In the photo, she was wearing a black strapless gown, a clear bite mark visible on her snow-white skin. I had paid a fortune for that dress at a charity auction as her anniversary gift. It was one of a kind, adorned with 999 diamonds. But she wasn't wearing it for me. My mind went blank as I raced to the bar. Her phone's GPS was pinging. I kept trying to reassure myself. It has to be fake. It's not real. She said she'd love me forever. But when I found her, she said dismissively, "Oh, that? Ethan lost a bet, and this was his dare. As his boss, I can't let my employee go back on his word, can I? Don't worry, honey. If there were anything between us, it would have happened long ago. He's been with me for 10 years. Chapter 1. Her words left me speechless. Ethan Miller also swore an oath. Mr. Clark, rest assured I have absolutely no improper thoughts about your wife. Tonight was a celebration. I lost a game, and Miss Sinclair was just gracious enough to let me follow through with the dare. A colleague behind them chimed in. That's right, Mr. Clark. Don't take it to heart. This is the success party for our project. Miss Sinclair and Ethan were just letting loose a bit. But there's really nothing going on between them. We can all vouch for that. In that moment, it was as if I were nothing more than a jealous, nagging husband. And yet Ethan's hand was resting shamelessly on my wife's slim waist. The words caught in my throat. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened, but she always had an excuse, a reason to smooth it over. My hands hanging at my sides, clenched into fists, my nails digging painfully into my palms. My wife, Victoria Sinclair, grabbed my hand and swayed it back and forth. Honey, since you're here, why don't you join us? I had never been able to refuse her anything. Even with a thorn piercing my heart, I agreed. The dice cup shook, stopped, and was lifted. I had the lowest roll. The people in the private room started jeering. Ha ha ha, Mr. Clark. You lose who knew we'd get the chance to give the high and mighty Mr. Clark a dare? They fanned out a deck of dare cards for me. I pulled one out at random and glanced at it for a few seconds. Then, I calmly stood up. Before anyone could figure out what I was doing, I grabbed a beer from the table, walked over to Ethan, and poured it over his head. I took out my phone and snapped a picture of his pathetic, dripping state. I let out a soft laugh. Do you all really think I'm an idiot? What kind of dare requires you to take a bite out of my wife's chest? Seeing the fury in my eyes, they all fell silent. Then I slammed the beer bottle down on the table. The sound of shattering glass echoed as I roared, "Let's play. Why has everyone stopped playing? Is it not fun anymore?" Victoria was the first to react, shoving me aside. She took the designer shawl I'd bought her for thousands of dollars and started drying Ethan's hair with it. "Sincere Clark, this is a public place. What are you doing?" Seeing my wife shield her male assistant without a moment's hesitation, a wave of pain washed over me. I knew that anxious look all too well. It was the same look she gave me when I lost my first major bid and was thrown out of a meeting. She hadn't changed, but the person she was protecting had. Like a cunning homewrecker, Ethan lowered his head, pressing closer to Victoria with a wronged expression. "Miss Sinclair, I'm fine. Don't blame Mr. Clark." Then, feigning weakness, he leaned into her arms and shot me a provocative glance. "Mr. Clark, please don't be angry. Miss Sinclair and I were just playing a game. We have a completely innocent relationship." I sneered. "I was just playing a game, too. The dare I drew was to pour water on your head." Victoria yelled at me. "Sincere, there's no dare card for personal attacks like that. Apologize to Ethan right now." Chapter 2. That made it the 101st time. The 101st time she'd lost her temper with me over Ethan Miller. I was the one being cheated on, yet she felt no guilt. Instead, she demanded that I be the one to back down. How utterly laughable. I was so tired of this marriage. Tilting my head back, I downed the rest of my drink in one gulp and said coldly, "I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize?" I grabbed my suit jacket and headed for the door. I hadn't taken 2 steps before Victoria grabbed my arm. "Sincere, it's our anniversary. The colleagues are all watching." I laughed coldly to myself. So she did remember it was our anniversary. What she didn't know was that I'd been waiting for her to come home for dinner, reheating the food over and over a dozen times. She continued, "Do you really want to make such a scene in front of the entire company? I'm doing this for your own good. Otherwise, people will say you're throwing your weight around. It's just an apology to Ethan. It won't kill you, Ethan. Always Ethan." She couldn't seem to form a sentence without his name in it. I shook her hand off me. "Don't touch me. You're dirty." Then I slapped her across the face. The entire room fell silent. Only Ethan spoke up, his voice dripping with false concern. "Mr. Clark, if you have a problem, take it out on me. You're misunderstanding Miss Sinclair." He then announced to everyone, "Mr. Clark, you've got it all wrong. I've been Miss Sinclair's assistant for 10 years. I only have admiration for her, nothing more. Miss Sinclair gave me my big break. Why would I ever become a third party and destroy your marriage?" He then whispered to Victoria, "Miss Sinclair, please don't fight with Mr. Clark over me. I'm really okay. I know you look out for me, both at work and in life, but I don't need an apology from Mr. Clark. Just go home with him." A few colleagues who were in on the secret covered their mouths, snickering as they watched the drama unfold. This scene had played out many times before, and it always ended with me compromising. But this time, Victoria said sullenly, "Fine, I'll listen to Ethan. I won't argue with you anymore. Let's go home." My heart twisted painfully again. If she hadn't been so obedient to Ethan, maybe things wouldn't have reached this point of no return. But now, she did whatever he said. I gave her a calm, final look, said nothing, and walked away. Victoria still followed me to the Rolls-Royce. Inside the car, she asked impatiently, "Sincere Clark, why have you been targeting Ethan lately? He's a really hard worker. What has he done wrong?" "I know I'm your wife, but Ethan has worked with me for 10 years. We're comrades, and our bond is purely professional. I knew Ethan before I met you. If something were going to happen between us, I wouldn't have married you. You wouldn't even be here right now getting jealous." All the emotions I had suppressed for so long finally erupted. I roared at her. "Yes, I'm jealous, but that's because I can't stand it anymore. You were my wife, so why is your heart always on the side of an employee?" Chapter 3. Staring out the car window, I struggled to calm myself. "Victoria, is there really nothing going on between you two? He makes one phone call, says he's been drinking, and you leave my hospital bedside to run to him. You remember everything he likes to eat, but you forget that I'm allergic to alcohol. When you had to entertain clients, I was the one who took drink after drink for you. There were so many other things, but I didn't have the strength to say them." I closed my eyes, and a single tear traced a path down my cheek. After a deep sigh, I said, "Victoria, we're finished. Let's get a divorce." There was no response. When I turned to look at her, she was already passed out from the alcohol. Back at home, I pulled out thousands of photographs, proof of the love we once shared. Now, they were just a bitter irony. I tore them up until 3 in the morning. Then I called my lawyer. "Draw up the divorce papers and send them over tomorrow." The next day, Victoria acted as if nothing had happened. She sat at the dining table, smiling foolishly at her phone. She looked just like a 17-year-old girl in the first flush of love. When she saw me come downstairs, her tone was gentle. "Honey, Ethan and I are going to inspect a project site today, so I won't be home for dinner." I stopped in my tracks. She'd forgotten again. Our 10th wedding anniversary. It was an easy date to remember, but every year, it was like she had amnesia. I had expected it, but it still stung. I opened my mouth to say something, but in the end, only a single word came out, "Okay." She was completely oblivious to my turmoil, her entire focus on the person on the other end of her phone. Back in my study, I saw that her personal laptop was open. As if possessed, I walked over to it. I opened the screen, and the first thing I saw was a picture of her and Ethan, their lips pressed tightly together. The photo was a dagger in my heart. There was a folder labeled "My Sweetheart." Inside were over 10,000 photos of Ethan, posing in all sorts of ways. She had never kept a single photo of me on her phone. I thought she just wasn't the type to take pictures. It turned out she was. I just wasn't the one she treasured. Then there were the chat logs with her best friend, Chloe, where she complained about me. "I told you Ethan Miller was better than Sincere Clark. A man with a low sperm count can't compete with a young, virile guy like Ethan. Just find a way to make him leave with nothing. Why give up the whole forest for a single tree?" An icy chill spread through my body. So that was it. All her nitpicking was a strategy to find fault with me, to make me the one to blame for the marriage failing. I opened the last file. Its contents made my vision go black. Unconditional transfer of 10 of company shares to Mr. Ethan Miller, Chapter 4. The company I had built from the ground up, and she had just casually given away 10% of it to another man, without even telling me. Anger, grief, a dozen conflicting emotions warred in my mind. Hearing footsteps outside, I quickly copied all the evidence. She put the laptop in her bag, completely unaware. She wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. "Honey, you have breakfast by yourself, okay? I can't keep Ethan waiting downstairs for too long." But she was the one who had once promised that no matter how busy we got, we would always have breakfast together. She'd forgotten that too, I said calmly. "This project is too big for the company. I'll join you." She froze. "You haven't been involved in a company project for a long time. You might not be used to it." She had said she wanted to run the company to prove herself, so I had stepped back without a word, focusing on being a stay-at-home husband for her. As she was leaving, I grabbed her hand. "Tori, don't you remember what day it is today?" It was my final attempt. She looked confused. "It's not your birthday yet." "What day is it?" "Today is a ringtone one I knew was exclusively for Ethan cut me off." She impatiently shook my hand away. "Whatever it is, we can talk about it when I get back." My hand scraped against a glass vase, and blood started to well up. Even if she saw it, she probably wouldn't care. Ethan's syrupy voice came through the phone. "Miss Sinclair, it's okay. You can finish your conversation with Mr. Clark." "I can wait," Victoria scoffed. "But I don't want to make you wait another second. There's nothing left for him and me to talk about anyway. Just some trivial little occasions that aren't worth celebrating. Being with you is the only thing that feels special to me." She laughed and chatted with Ethan, but was cold and dismissive to me. I lowered my gaze. This self-deceiving relationship had to end. I dialed the number of my childhood friend and lawyer, David Finch. "I want to sell all of my shares." He had long been urging me to escape this toxic love affair. He agreed immediately. "Okay, I'll handle it." But I wouldn't give up until I had undeniable proof. I secretly followed Victoria to the so-called project site. It wasn't a construction site at all. It was an even more extravagant private club. I had to see for myself how they negotiated projects. Peeking through a crack in the door, I saw a massive bed. The sofas were occupied by all sorts of men. Ethan was sitting right next to her, and Victoria's dress had been replaced by a tiny slip. Their bodies were pressed together, without a sliver of space between them. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Hey Miller, didn't you leave a mark on Miss Sinclair's chest? Why not leave one on her little garden too?" Victoria hesitated slightly. That place. The words had barely left his mouth when Ethan eagerly moved to take a bite. She put up a show of playful resistance. Then, amidst the jeers of the crowd, the two of them became a tangled mess. "Kiss her, kiss her." They started kissing passionately in front of everyone, ignoring the world, and there I was, spying through the door like a common thief. My wife, on our wedding anniversary, was publicly making out with another man. My heart turned to ice. I sent her a message. "Which project site are you at?" Seeing the inseparable pair inside, I let out a self-mocking laugh. Of course. How could she possibly have time to read my message? I started calling her, again and again. Her phone screen lit up and went dark, but she never picked it up. Ethan offered a helpful reminder. "Miss Sinclair, maybe you should answer Mr. Clark's call." She snorted dismissively. "Don't worry about it." That's right, I was just someone who could be ignored. I went to the security room and saved the footage of their debauchery. I was about to leave when I heard her say, "I'm pregnant." I froze on the spot. The doctor had told me my low sperm count made it virtually impossible for me to father a child. So the baby wasn't mine. She had once said she would only ever have my children, and if we couldn't, we would grow old together, just the two of us. I started laughing, and then the tears came. It turned out I was the only one who ever cared about those vows. She had changed a long time ago. Ethan was ecstatic, acting like a child as he spun Victoria around. "Vicky, I've liked you for so long. If you weren't married, I would have pursued you. Now that you're carrying my child, I don't care who your husband is. I'll take care of you." His words made me want to vomit. Since you've both taken it this far, you can't blame me for what comes next. I set up my phone and started a live stream. I gave it a sensational title. Liv Shengtian Group CEO Caught Cheating 99 Cents for Accesses Chapter 5. People's appetite for gossip is endless. In less than 20 minutes, there were over 100,000 viewers online. I pushed the door open and walked in. "Victoria, you were unfaithful to me, so don't blame me for being unjust. The evidence is irrefutable. Sign the divorce papers now." The rowdy crowd in the room froze, staring at me. The title was pure clickbait. and the number of viewers was soaring. Tomorrow, the company would undoubtedly face a crisis of unprecedented proportions. Victoria, horrified, pushed Ethan away from where his head was buried beneath her dress. Her eyes met mine, filled with disgust. She scrambled to pick up her clothes from the floor, barely covering herself. The comments in the live stream chat were scrolling at lightning speed. OMG, Miss Sinclair seems so pure on the surface, but she's this wild in private? There are at least 10 guys in that room. Who cares about Shengtian Group's products anymore? I'm never buying them again. I feel dirty just thinking about it. I watched their frantic movements with detached calm. Holding my phone up, I walked over to her and asked with a smile, "Victoria, is this what you call a purely professional relationship?" Since I can't win an argument with you, I decided to invite tens of thousands of netizens to see just how pure your relationship really is. The viewers immediately began to condemn her. She's been playing her husband for a fool. Cheating is bad enough, but to keep denying it after being caught. What kind of man bites a woman he has no relationship with on the chest? Victoria hastily dressed, covering her face as she whispered, "Sincere, why do you have to air our private matters online? You can have whatever you want, just please turn off the live stream first." I brushed her hand away from my sleeve and sneered, "Why do you think I started a live stream? 100 times. I've tried to communicate with you 100 times. But did you ever take it seriously? Every time, you'd just calmly say I was overthinking things. Now, with Ethan's head buried under your skirt, are you still going to tell me your relationship is pure?" The netizens were furious on my behalf. Pure? She's a completely shameless, trashy woman. And the guy has no morals either, still pretending to be some innocent pretty boy. The online mob quickly dug up information on Ethan. He was nothing but a gold digger trying to leech off a wealthy woman. Thousands of abusive messages flooded his social media accounts. He was livid. "Miss Sinclair, you have to stand up for me," he shouted. I cut him off. "Stand up for you for what? Your mouth was under my wife's skirt. What do you need her to stand up for? Based on what you've done, I could easily make it so you can never work in this city again." He immediately started making excuses. "Mr. Clark, you've really misunderstood. Miss Sinclair's leg was hurt. I was just helping her massage it." I scoffed. Still making excuses, even now. I was done wasting my breath on them. I presented the evidence. Thousands of their flirtatious chat messages, calling each other baby this and baby that. I asked the audience what kind of boss and subordinate address each other like that. Victoria knew things had spun completely out of control. She grasped at her last straw and screamed at me. "Sincere Clark, stop this, I'm pregnant with your child," Chapter 6. Everyone thought I would joyfully embrace her. After all, with my infertility, the chance of fathering a child was 1 in a million. Now that Victoria was pregnant with my child, I should be treating her like a precious treasure. I sneered. "I have no interest in raising another man's child." She started cursing at me. "Sincere Clark, you have no proof. How can you say that? This child is yours." I threw the medical report from the hospital onto the table. The doctor said I can never get a woman pregnant in this lifetime. That statement sent shockwaves through the room and the live stream. With the evidence laid bare, she had no more excuses. She finally broke. "Fine, Sincere. The child isn't yours. Do you have any idea how much I've wanted a child all these years? But you couldn't give me one. But back then, she was the one who said she didn't mind my infertility, that she would never regret being with me even if we never had children. Why did she marry me only to betray me? I knew she wanted a child. I had been seeking all sorts of treatments for my condition for years. Why didn't she ever say anything? If she had told me earlier, I would have never chosen to be with her." At that moment, Ethan stepped forward to speak for her. "That's right, Mr. Clark. Miss Sinclair only wanted a child, so she borrowed my sperm. Can't you even grant Miss Sinclair's wish to be a mother?" I offered it willingly. "Mr. Clark, you should be grateful. Instead, you repay kindness with ingratitude." The tables were turned, and suddenly, I was the one at fault. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Victoria looked at Ethan with gratitude. "Oh, Ethan, you're the only one who thinks of me and my child. Thank you so much." She then turned to me, her voice devoid of any emotion. "Sincere Clark, regardless of whether the child is yours or not, do you feel no affection for me at all? Are you really going to force me into a corner?" I shot back hysterically, "Victoria, who is forcing whom? Your love for me was a lie. You married me just to get your hands on Shengtian Group. Now that you have it, you're trying to kick me out with nothing. You were the one who cheated first. What right do you have to talk to me about affection? Seeing that the situation was about to become uncontrollable, Victoria began to beg. Sincere, let's talk about this at home. I'm begging you, don't let this get any worse. Don't forget, you still have a stake in this company. Turn off the live stream first. Don't hurt an innocent person like Ethan. The power of the internet will ruin his life. Her first instinct was still to protect Ethan, even willing to use the company's interests as leverage against me. I thought my heart had gone numb, but seeing the incredibly gentle look in her eyes as she protected the child in her belly, I felt a sharp pang of pain. In her heart, I was always an afterthought. But that was for the best. Now I wouldn't have a single shred of reluctance. I looked at her and said calmly, "Sign the divorce papers. What you two do after that is none of my business." Seeing the triumphant look in Ethan's eyes, I added, "Ethan, life is miserable for a couple with no money. You're no longer an employee of the group. Once everyone in our circle knows what you've done, you'll find it very difficult to get another job." This time, I signed my name without hesitation. I had been trapped in the swamp of love for too long. She always insisted there was nothing going on with her employee, that I was just being paranoid. She had stamped out my desire for a divorce 100 times, but now it was finally time to settle things. The bite mark on her chest was just the catalyst. Victoria had always been too close to Ethan. One day it was a hickey on her arm, the next on her neck, and then on her chest. On the surface, she claimed she just wanted a child, but there are many ways to have one. In reality, she enjoyed the thrill of this clandestine affair. When Victoria finished reading the divorce agreement, her face went from pale to ashen. "Sincere Clark, what is the meaning of this? You want me to leave with nothing? On what grounds? I'm not signing it even with your infertility. As long as I insist the child is yours, you can forget about a divorce." Noticing I still hadn't put my phone down, she stepped closer and saw the flood of comments cursing her. "Shameless, what a shameless woman." Chapter 7. Seeing the number of live viewers still climbing, she lunged for my phone in a fit of rage. "Sincere Clark, have you lost your mind? You built Shengtian Group from scratch, you're going to destroy it." I sneered. "Even though I founded Shengtian Group, the thought of it having been managed by you makes me want nothing to do with it. Besides, you're the one with the most to lose. I've already sold my shares. So the only one whose reputation will be ruined is you." Hearing this, she reflexively tried to slap me. Naturally, I wouldn't let her. I blocked her hand and shoved her back. "Victoria, when you said you wanted a company, I worked day and night to build one for you. When I was hospitalized with stomach pain from drinking too much for the business, where were you? I found out the next day that you had gone on vacation to Hawaii with Ethan. Do you know you promised to pick me up that day? I waited for you all night, but it was just a joke to you. While I was in agony, you were on vacation with another man." Victoria was left speechless. I said word for word, "So, you deserve to leave with nothing." Ethan, of course, was unwilling to see the rich woman he'd finally snagged turn into a pauper. He yelled, "That's not right. You must have set Miss Sinclair and me up, just so you could take all the marital assets for yourself. Sincere Clark, I never knew you were such a vicious person." Before he could finish, I kicked him away. I laughed coldly. "Ethan, what nonsense are you spouting now? How did I set you up? Is the video fake? Even if you don't believe the video, is the baby in her belly fake too?" When Victoria saw Ethan fall onto the shattered glass on the floor, getting only a minor cut, her face turned even uglier than before. She shielded him like a mother hen protecting her chick. "Sincere Clark, I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I cheated. Come at me, but don't you dare hurt Ethan." Just then, a few righteous netizens who had been watching burst into the room. "If Mr. Clark can't bring himself to do it, we'll do it for him and vent his anger. Mr. Clark is such a good man, you didn't cherish him, and you cheated on him. We're going to beat you two shameless dogs to death." The scene descended into chaos. Someone even grabbed Victoria by the hair. "You shameless homewrecker, all cheaters should die in the pandemonium." Ethan also got roughed up. Victoria looked at me, pleading, "Sincere, I know I was wrong. Please make them stop. Please, just give me one more chance." "Give you what?" I laid down the final word. "Victoria, you'll get a divorce whether you want one or not. I was originally going to leave you $10,000, a final payment to sever our ties. If you still refuse to sign, you'll get nothing." Ethan thought this was a raw deal and shouted, "Mr. Clark, how can you be so stingy? People get hundreds of thousands in breakup fees. Miss Sinclair was married to you for years. Are you going to leave her with no assets at all? She won't even have a place to live. What can you do with $10,000? You're a CEO, for crying out loud. How can you offer so little? It should be at least $1 million. Victoria still couldn't believe I was serious about divorcing her. She was finally starting to panic, realizing this wasn't a joke. She said, with no confidence in her voice, "Sincere Clark, are you really going to divorce me? You'd better not regret it." In her eyes, I was the one who could never leave her. She had never imagined I would be the one to initiate the divorce. I said calmly, "I will never regret it. Just sign it and go be with your precious Ethan." Chapter 8. Back home, I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted. My friend asked, "What if she never agrees to sign?" I replied confidently, "She will. I've already blocked every other path she could take." The whole ordeal had taken a toll on me, but all the grievances I had endured would finally dissipate with the divorce. The live stream from that day spread like wildfire. The group's stock price plummeted. Fortunately, I had already sold all my shares. Within 3 days, the company was acquired by a competitor, and both Victoria and Ethan were kicked out. My friend told me about the scene that day. The once glamorous Victoria Sinclair was begging at the company's entrance, pleading not to be forced out. A major shareholder told her, "The company has suffered significant losses, both overt and hidden, under your management these past few years. All the deficits you created were secretly covered by Mr. Clark. Now that you and he are divorced, it's time for you to leave." Victoria said defiantly, "Your word means nothing. Sincere is just angry with me right now. When he calms down, you'll all be sorry." Just as she finished speaking, an assistant ran in frantically. "Miss Sinclair, bad news, a summons just arrived from the court." The shareholder mocked her. "Miss Sinclair, you are no longer welcome in this company." Victoria left, utterly dejected. The woman who had once been the queen of the company could never set foot inside it again. She still refused to sign the divorce papers. On the day of the court hearing, she knelt before me in public. "Sincere, I was wrong. I'm begging you, please withdraw the lawsuit. I'll be a good wife to you. Please, just give me one more chance." I shook off her hands as she clung to my leg. "Victoria, it's too late for all of this." Through her tears, she said, "Sincere, there's still a life inside of me. Please, don't make me leave with nothing." I took a USB drive from my pocket. "This contains the videos and evidence of your affair. When you betrayed me, did you feel even a sliver of guilt?" She cried, "Sincere, I really know I was wrong. If you don't want the child, my belly, I can get rid of it. You have infertility issues. No woman will want to be with you. But I'm different. I can stay with you forever." A slender woman stepped forward from behind me. "Who says so? I've admired Mr. Clark for a long time." I took the woman's hand in mine. I looked down at Victoria and said, like a demon, "I not only have videos of your affair, but I also have evidence of your tax evasion." The color drained from her face. "Victoria, if you had just signed the divorce papers obediently, none of this would have happened." She wanted to say more, but I turned and walked into the courthouse without a backward glance. I won the case. Victoria was left with nothing and was also sentenced to 10 years in prison. Unwilling to spend so much time behind bars, she tried to call in favors. But the wealthy socialites she thought were her good friends suddenly stopped answering her calls. After the last call went unanswered, she finally understood the coldness of human nature. She managed to arrange for Ethan to visit her one last time. "Ethan, you have to find a way to get me out of here." Seeing that her fate was sealed, Ethan's tone was no longer respectful. "Miss Sinclair, you must be joking. What could I possibly do?" Seeing his change in attitude, Victoria instantly realized that Ethan had never loved her. He only loved money and status. Unfortunately, she only understood this today. She asked, with a final shred of hope, "Ethan, I'm carrying your child. You don't want our child to be born in prison, do you?" Ethan flatly denied it. "Ms. Sinclair, that child has nothing to do with me. You were just borrowing my sperm. Why should I be responsible for you?" Victoria stared at his ugly, twisted face. When she had money, he would praise her to the heavens. But the moment she lost her power, he revealed his true colors. Only now did she begin to realize how good I had been to her. No matter what happened, I would never have let her suffer. I would have given her anything she wanted. She truly regretted it all. But she would have to spend her years of repentance in a prison cell. Later, Ethan couldn't find a job and ended up on the streets. They say that every woman he got involved with after that cheated on him. I couldn't be bothered to care. The next time I heard news of them, It was that Victoria had suffered a difficult childbirth in prison, and Ethan had been killed by a truck. Perhaps that was karma. As for me, I was leisurely sipping my coffee.